gathered together here to celebrate with joy the life of your friend, Doris J Shallcross. What I know about her is the little bit that some folks have been able to tell me and what's available on the internet, and there's a lot. But still, what you know about her, I should be sitting there listening to you, because then I would be able to celebrate her life more fully and with the kind of joy that I've sensed as I've listened to you talk, as you've greeted one another. It's been fantastic to see your eyes. I suspect the smiles are there. But it is a privilege for me to be here to celebrate her life with you. Again, you know the facts of her life. You can attest to them. So instead of going through the usual obituary, we'll take some time where you can celebrate and share with us exactly what it is that you remember the most, and let that be not the obituary, but the facts and the details. And it's in between the facts and the details that she really lived. And it's between those facts and details she celebrated life and gave life to so many in so many ways. You have in your hands the song sheet. You also have in your hands this little bulletin. You can look at this, but this is not how we're going to do it. We're just going to go with a different kind of a flow. And we're going to begin in a moment with Pat Kapitsky opening us with a hymn. And that hymn, let that be our opening prayer. So again, on this beautiful, beautiful, perfect day, we celebrate a life that's nearly just as perfect.
A Hymn of Promise.
And it's by Natalie Sleeth, words and music. I chose this because of the poetry.
Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all the lands, and serve the Lord with gladness. Come into the Lord's presence with singing, and know that the Lord is God. It is God that made us, and we belong to God, and we are the Lord's people and the sheep of that pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and bless his holy name, for the Lord is good. God's steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. There's a Japanese proverb that says, better 1,000 days of diligent study. Better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher. Doris was a great teacher, an incredible teacher. I knew of her when she was doing her doctoral work at UMass. I knew of her by reputation. Our paths crossed. I was an undergraduate, but in the College of Engineering, or at College of Education, you can't hide who you are. You can't hide brilliance or creativity, and you most certainly cannot hide determination and dedication. She wasn't hidden. Not at all. And in the scriptures, there are a couple of places where we find inspiration that will carry us through. And this one thing reminds me so much of what it means to be a teacher. Jesus said, "Let the children come to me. Don't hinder them. For to such belongs the kingdom of heaven." That's what teachers say and do. Bring the children to me. Let those who have a desire to learn, let them come to this feast and let them be filled. Teachers do that. I wonder how she said it. But again, like I said, you should be here and I should be there listening to you to catch the nuances of how Doris would share what she had to say, how she would teach. There's another passage that says, "Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And tracking her life through the years as she was a teacher, a writer, administrator, she was also a visionary. She imagined futures that were incredible. She was not conformed to anybody else's idea of what the world should be. She kept transforming her mind and her life, and through doing that, she transformed the lives and the worlds of so many other people. Have you ever heard of the wet dog theory? There are some who come into a room, and they are very much like wet dogs. They come in and they see everybody, and they're so happy that people have gathered, and they just shake like crazy, getting everybody wet. Doris came into a room covered with ideas, covered with dreams, and she came in and she would shake like that wet dog and cover everybody with some new way of perceiving reality, the world, the possibilities. The wet dog theory is a really good one for people who go into places and stir things up. Did she? Some of you agree. She had that reputation. One of the examples of her creativity is the Pioneer Valley Performing Arts High School in South Hadley. Founding trustee, and I don't know all that went into her involvement over the 15 years that she served there. But I know that the school is still there. It is still highly recommended. Creativity is one of the bywords. And of course, if you're going to attend that school as a young person, not only do you need to be creative and bright, you have to be dedicated. You have to have a dominant will that says, I'm going to learn this. And from this I will grow, and my world will grow because of it. Do you want to change the world? That was a common phrase back in the 70s. And we were always taught that was a really, really nice thought, to change the world. And there were countless theories on how we could do that. And the best of all the teachers would say that it begins with you. Start by imagining a new world. See it. And then do what needs to be done to create it step by step. Learn from this new world that you can imagine. Then go and live it. Live in that world. And allow the creativity and the spirit of that world to flow through you, so that through you, the world of others will also be changed. I'm told that Dory loved sports. That she was she loved the Red Sox, the Celtics, and she played golf. And the relevance of that is the quote from George Bernard Shaw and RFK, some see things as they are and they say why. I dream of things that never were and say why not. If you were a Red Sox fan in the 70s, you understood that. You got it. And if you ever played the game of golf, you understood that I dream of things that never were. And I say, why not? No matter where that ball went, it was time to start again and to try all over. Maybe this can remove some of the sentimentality, the idea that she put into her world and calls us to put into our world. And suddenly when we do this, it's no longer really theoretical. It's got feet on the ground. It's not just ideas in a mind, dreams in a heart, hopes in a soul. It's reality. It's reality putting on new ways and putting on new people, like putting on you and me. That's what I understand this incredible woman did for her world. Inviting people in, helping them tear down the walls of how they saw the world so that they could build a new one inside and watch them build a new one on their outsides. When she was involved with the Center for Creative Education, there was a phrase that went through that whole movement, still goes through, and that is, say no to the status quo. Was that Dory? Was she ever satisfied with the status quo? I can't imagine it. I cannot imagine it. Creativity was so much a part of her that it began, back up the bus, it didn't begin. It was one of those things that grew out of her faith as a child. Her faith in God as she understood God to be, and that was not a static understanding or a static theological position. That was how she saw the world, through God's eyes, not as it was, but how could it be? It's easy to stand here and to quote scripture. Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but transform your world by the renewing of your mind. It's easy to say that. How much did it take for her to live it? For all those years. She not only taught her students, she taught her colleagues. She taught her teachers. And I challenge you to remember all that you can about her, to talk about her often. You say it's when you tell the stories about Dory's life and your interactions with them, as you share those stories with each other, that's how she continues to live in this world. Laugh as she laughed. Get frustrated as she got frustrated. Cry as she cried. But don't do it alone. Do it with each other. Do it the way she taught. Not in the classroom, but in outside, beyond the walls, beyond the curbs. She didn't sit down and say, "Come to me." She said, "Come in and we'll do it together as we go out." By the grace of God, and by the world's love of her life and the kind of work she did, the memory of Doris J Shallcross will be a blessing to you and to whomever you take it with. She saw things as they were, wasn't satisfied. And she dreamed of things that never were. And she said, "Why not?" And then she went and changed them. And she changed you. And for this we give great thanks to God. Mary Claire, she touched your heart. She touched your life in so many ways. Would you now bring to us the thoughts that you have? Will you share them with us with the fullness of your heart?
I don't know. Can you all hear me? I might lift this up a little bit. No, I can't. So I'll just tip it up like this. No, I'll hold it in my hand like this. Yes, there it is. So, wow, it's wonderful to be here and meet all of you, or many of you. I met Dory when I was about 40 years old, and I got into the creativity program, the doctoral program at UMass, which she had created, and I loved it, and I loved her, and flourished as a result of that. Also went on to teach at Lesley University in Cambridge in a program whose mission was to bring the creative arts to K through 12 teachers. It was called Creative Arts and Learning, and the faculty were artists and scholars, and we taught teachers all over the United States how to integrate poetry, drama, storytelling, music, visual arts, and I forget there's one more, art form. And they were K through 12 teachers, and they took out from our program, like I had taken from Dory's program, the ways to do this, the ways to work with teachers and children. So that's my connection. And then we became friends. So I've brought 2 poems. Louise Canis called me and said, would I bring 2 poems, one that I would write, I'm a poet, and the other that I would find. So I've brought 2 poems. And I'm going to read you, the first one I'm going to read you is by Emily Dickinson, who's one of our neighbors in this neck of the woods. This poem, for me, is a way of honoring Doris Shallcross for her creative work. For creating a graduate program that nurtured and shaped many people. For her vision, her hard work, her love of her students, I celebrate Dory. This is the poem. And there's a little explanation, maybe. A gambrel roof, this isn't the poem, a gambrel roof, which is mentioned in the poem, is a roof with a lower, steeper slope and an upper, flatter slope. So there you go. I don't know if you make any sense out of that or not, but anyway. Here's the Emily Dickinson poem. I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose, more numerous of windows, superior for doors, of chambers as the cedars, impregnable of eye, and for an everlasting roof, the gambrels of the sky. Of visitors, the fairest. For occupation, thus, the spreading wide my narrow hands to gather paradise. So Emily's a bit cryptic as a poet, but she's terse, which is good. And my poem is as a celebration of Doris Shallcross, and it's also about Doris Shallcross. I don't know if you've heard of M.C. Richards, Mary Carolyn Richards. She was an educator and a creative artist, a potter. She said, education as a form of living and learning is a social art. The art of awakening what is there within the human being. Good teaching is an act of hospitality. I love that. And hospitality is always an act that benefits the host and the guests. So here's my poem. It's called Not for Sale. I want to be as benevolent as sun, light giving way to other light, pouring out in all directions, for any to capture. Not for sale, and no one can suck in all the light just because he has the money. No one can capture the package and package or sell the light, the heat. But each one, each being alive, can receive new rays every day in a winding coupling of death and generosity. That's my tribute to Doris Shallcross. Thank you.
I wish there were more.
Yes.
This is a time in which I normally ask people, do you have something that you would say? This is your time. As I said, this is my time to sit down and listen.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Elaine Fraunhofer. I'm Dory's cousin. Actually, second cousin, as I've recently determined. Thank you. I met Dory about 24 years ago when I first moved to Western Massachusetts. My mother, Minerva Fraunhofer, born Minerva Shallcross, insisted that I connect with this cousin of hers. I was like, okay, well, I could not be more grateful. Really, from the first day that I met Dory and throughout all our years together, she has been a ray of light in my life, as she has been for many others. I noticed that phrase, ray of light, came up in your poetry, and I think that really is an indicator of what Dory represented in our lives. So I just want to share this little kind of funny thing that kind of tells who Dory was. For years, I would call her up and I'd say, "Hey, Dory, it's your cousin Elaine," and she'd always respond, "Hey, kiddo, how's it going?" And I just want to say that the fact that she was referring to me as kiddo well into my 50s, I think that really is a good example of who Dory was, her wit and her charm. And she was charming. I think a woman of Dory's incredible intellect and success could have been a bit off-putting for people, but she had a way of putting you at ease with her wit and with her warmth, and really her truly sincere attention to you, the person that she was with, the person that she was bringing into her sphere. That was the side of Dory that I got to see as a distant relative, really, that she warmly embraced. I mean, I did get to see glimpses of the Dory that many of you know, the professor and the leader, the creator, but I will say, just ironically, I was just mentioning to Dory's niece, Susan Williams, how not long after moving here, I began to realize that my cousin was actually a bit of a celebrity. And so, of course, I immediately started shamelessly name dropping. Oh, you know my cousin, Doris Shallcross? And I could see that my stock kind of went up and that they thought maybe I had a little bit of Dory in me. Well, I'd like to believe that by knowing Dory, that she did impart a little of her in me. Which actually brings me to the last thing I just want to say. It's a little bit of a side note, really, but that I have always long admired the deep and beautiful friendship that she has had with her friends, especially Therese Walduck and Louise Canis here. You made a family that was supportive of each other, but effortlessly spread that love and support to others that came into your sphere. My husband Mike, myself, my sister Diane, all of us. Well, I know that we have all lost an important member of our family. But I am comforted by the fact that I know Doris Shallcross lived an amazing life. And we are all the better for it. Thank you.
Susan, I'm so glad that you will.
All right, Elaine, just because you're younger than I am, and all of you have known Aunt Dar. My mom is Irma, her older sister. You've all known her in her adult life. I've known her my whole entire life, which is more than 65 years. I'm not telling you how many more. But we were the objects at family Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas gatherings of her little experiments. We couldn't have our dinner until we could balance a spoon on our nose at the table, and so on and so on and so on. And so none of you knew her in those years, because didn't you guys meet in your 20s, Louise? In graduate school. So we had all this before that, and we loved her, and we traveled all over the place with her to her many meetings that she did, and she always had pets. And I wanted to make sure that was mentioned, because there was always a dog, or a dog and a cat, or 2 cats. But she loved her pets very, very much. So on behalf of Doris's family that's all over the country, we are all grateful for the time that we had with her, and we will miss her, but she sure did give us a lot of fun and great memories. Thank you.
Is there another memory to be shared? We'll start, and we'll work our way around.
I can just speak from here, so that's fine. This is just, I met Dory maybe 30, 35 years ago. We lived across the street from each other, so I lived across the street from her, and we connected because we had dogs. she had Tasha at that point, and I had Sophie. And it wasn't too long into our meeting, she said, you know, let's have dinner together. And then it was like, well, let's have dinner again. And I met Louise and Therese that way. And suddenly it was, let's collect the wild women of South Main Street and have Christmas dinner. And so for close to 30 years, 25 anyway, we all gathered. And it was not only the women from South Main Street, it was whoever was in Dory's realm that came and went. And there was always 15, 17 people around the table.
Easy.
And every year,
And kids.
the wild women gathered together. And it was just a part of Dory that perhaps you didn't know, but it was great fun. Lots of wine, lots of laughter, good fires in the fireplaces, and good dinner. And it made for the grounding of an amazing friendship that I had with her and with Louise all these years. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
Can I add something to that?
Certainly, Nancy.
That Christmas dinner always had a turkey. I detest turkey. Somehow, she would stick me with this carcass. But her intent was not to do anything with it, except to make her soup. So everybody would end up with the turkey and later on soup. And Dory really was pretty sneaky about it. So I add that on to the Christmas dinner.
So that begs the question. The question has to be asked: will the wild women meet again?
Wow.
We do periodically in smaller groups, so maybe it's time to gather us together during the holiday time.
Yes.
So Madeline will be at your house.
Everybody's invited. I'm the nurse in the neighborhood, so that's whatever happens.
You'll take care of it.
The old nurse.
You'll take care of it.
Come to a time now where, Pat, you're going to lead us.
Yes, 2 hymns.
Okay.
And the first hymn is In the Garden, a favorite of Louise and Dory's. I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear from my ear, the Son of God discloses. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, he tells me of his love, and the joy he shares with everywhere. No other was alone. He speaks with the sound of his voice. He's so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody running back to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me. He tells me of his love, and the joy he shares eternally there. No other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him through the night around me falling, and he gives me love through the voice of hope. He tells me I is gone, and the joy he shows me tell me that none has ever known.
Oh, we shall gather at the river. There's some great harmony to this, if you can remember it. I'm gonna switch onto the alto for this. You ready?
Dory, you wait for us at the river. You wait with where the bright angel feet have trod. You have laid down your burden. Back up the bus. She hasn't laid down her burden. She's given it to us. And for that gift that you bring to us, we say to you, thank you so much. We thank you. Now it's a time for one of the best loved passages of Scripture. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. The Lord makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. And you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in your house forever. Forever. Won't be long. Wait for a story.
Closing hymn. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King.
And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and give you peace. This day, every day, till time is no more. Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
Alex Hunter. I'd like to thank Pat for leading us in the music, Reverend Hunter for the services, and also I'd like to thank Florian from Bella Eva Photography for being here today and being a family that was not able to be here to be able to live stream it, and for his professionalism. Also, I'd like to give all of you the opportunity to pay your final respects at Dory's casket. In a few moments, we'll ask that you come from the back of the chapel to the front of the chapel. We ask that you pay your final respects, and if I could kindly ask that you go directly to your cars so we may give her family some time alone with her before they leave also today. And then when you do leave the funeral home here today, you are invited to the Florence Civic Center located at 90 Park Street in the Florence section of Northampton, where you folks can gather a little bit longer and continue to share those special memories that you have of Dory. And those of you who do not know where the Florence Civic Center is, once again, it's at 90 Park Street in Florence. If you have GPS, or when you leave, we do have written instructions if you would need those as well. Thank you.